generation. So I'm really excited to welcome Kate to Duluth. And here she is.
Hey, Lisa, back. Oh, never mind. I figured it out. Wait a minute. Okay, now I figured it out on my own. Okay, that way I can get a little bit closer to you guys because I know the acoustics are like. So, can you all hear me in the back? Kind of ish. Okay.
Whoa.
Okay, and how's that? How's that? How's that? No? Okay.
What? She can't be close to the speaker.
Is that good? A little bit further back this way.
Oh my gosh. This turned into a comedy show all of a sudden.
Okay, how's that back there? Is that a little bit better? Yeah.
She's
Okay.
doing stand-up comedy.
So, I'm just here to talk to y'all. I mean, I could do a reading, but what I would like to do is converse with y'all. And so if you have questions, raise your hand if you have a question. Okay, then you're just going to get read to the whole time. So nobody has a question. Nobody has a question. Good job, you. Are you a teacher? You're sort of a teacher. Okay, all right. Here's the first question. How did I get brave enough to send out my first manuscripts? Do you want to know my whole journey to writing? Yeah. Okay. Let's do that, and then we'll work up to the bravery. So when I was in college, I majored in English because then I could read all the books that I wanted to read, and my mother had to buy them, right? So that was great. And the adults kept on saying, "What are you going to do with an English degree?" And I was just like, I don't know, and then I had a professor who said to me, you have a certain facility with words, you should consider graduate school. So I thought, he's trying to tell me I'm really, really talented. Why should I go to graduate school? I'll just be a writer. So that was when I was 21 years old. And so from the time I was 20 until I was 30, I talked about being a writer. I told everybody I was a writer. I dreamed about having a book published, and I didn't write anything. So it wasn't until I was 30 that I started to write. And pretty soon after sitting down and starting to write, I started to send the stories out. Because by the time I started to do the work, I saw that it all depended only on whether or not I showed up, did the work, sent the work out. So it wasn't bravery as much as desperation sending it out. So yeah, so that's it. Yeah. Okay, who else wants to? Yeah, right back there. My favorite book. One favorite book. What's your favorite book? Yeah. The House. Oh, is that Jean Rice? No. Okay, yeah, no. I can never pick just one favorite book. Raise your hand if you can pick a favorite book. Yeah, that's a lot of me. I mean, if you back me into a corner, I would say Charlotte's Web means a lot to me. How many of y'all have read Charlotte's Web? Isn't that an astonishing thing? How many of you cried when you read Charlotte's Web? How many of you cried on the radio in Australia as you were reading aloud your favorite part of Charlotte's Web?
No.
That book, I reread it every year trying to figure out how E.B. White uses the same words we all have access to, but yet just does this miraculous thing. So I'll say that, yeah. Okay, who else wants to talk? I can't come that way. Okay. Soren, yes, Soren. My first book was Because of Winn-Dixie. Do you know Because of Winn-Dixie? Yeah. So, and that book is a direct result of me having, I grew up in Central Florida, and I moved to Minnesota in 1994. And if you've grown up in Central Florida, Minnesota Minnesota is a shock. It's just like, Lisa Beck, where are you? Yeah, so that my first roommate right back there, and you can testify to this. I was in shock. I came without a winter coat because I thought, how cold can it be? Is what I thought. And so I found out. Anyway, when Dixie is a reaction to that, it's a homesickness for the South. And also, it was the first time in my life that I'd been without a dog. And so I made up the best dog I could think of. How many of y'all have dogs? That's so good.
I want one.
Yeah, that's a different program.
What'd she say?
She said, who has cats? And then we
Yes,
used her, and she
right.
said, yeah, that's a different program because she was talking about dogs.
Do I have a favorite book of mine? I do not. I refuse to answer that question. Yeah. It's like asking somebody their favorite child. It makes you nervous, right? Yeah. And it's like I love them equally, but differently, and I see them all as deeply flawed, but lovable anyway. You know. I'm not saying anything about anybody's kids. But yes.
Right? Does it happen all at once, or is it an idea that kind of grows?
When creativity strikes, does it happen all at once, or does it grow over time? The way I write, I usually, a story for me will start with an image, or a word, or sometimes a name. And so it does, that's the beginning, that's like the grain of sand that a pearl grows around, you know? So it's just like I carry those things around and thinking that they are going to turn into stories, but I don't know what the stories are. And so I don't outline. So how many writers in the audience? Yeah. Well,
Kind
you
of.
for sure, the way you're listening
Kind
to
of.
me. So do you outline? Yeah. And so I don't know what's going to happen. And I just follow the story, and I usually just start with a word or a phrase or an image. Yeah. Okay. Who else? Who else? Yes. I can't come close to you because that's waiting to attack me. Yeah. So,
Why did you choose a rabbit for X-Lane?
why did I choose a rabbit for Edward Tulane? How many of y'all have read Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane? You're a very
What is that?
well-read audience, I have to say.
Edward Tulane. We've read that
So,
one.
Edward started with the gift of a rabbit doll.
Oh, right.
One Christmas. And he's like this rabbit doll comes up to here on me. He's like kind of big, dressed in this very elegant outfit. When a friend gave him to me, I said, "Thank you very much. What's his name?" She said, "Edward." And so I took this rabbit doll home and I put him on the couch in my living room. And then every time I walked into the living room, I would scream a tiny scream because he was a really creepy looking rabbit.
Oh, I remember.
And I really thought,
Old
wow,
school.
I don't know if I can like sleep with him in the house. He was weirding me out. But like the third night that I had him, I had a dream about him where he was underwater on the ocean floor, face down, without any clothing on, your basic naked rabbit dream, you know. And I thought there's a story in that, and so I started with that image, and then the whole thing just kind of told itself. And I still have that original rabbit. He's in my office now. And sometimes I pat him on the head and say, "You've been a very productive rabbit." It turned out to be a great gift. I didn't know. Yeah. So, yes. So what did I do last night? I did something in elastic. A Zoom call. Yeah. Oh, did I? Well, please. Oh, I remember that. I remember exactly where I was because I was up on the north shore of here when I did that. I do remember that. And you know, that was like, you know, here's one of the upsides of the pandemic is that we figured out that we could do that Zoom thing, and it's actually Well, no pressure. She came from Austin, Texas. Just for this. Okay. I better up my game. Okay. Yes, right there, please.
Oh.
What's your biggest piece of advice for someone who wants to go from being a writer to an author?
What's my biggest piece of advice for somebody who wants to go from being a writer to an author? And you know what? I never use the word author. I call myself a writer. To me, an author is somebody who has done something, and a writer is somebody who writes. So you're already what you want to be just by virtue of writing. Now what you want to do is get published, right? So how does it happen? Part of what you need to do is not give up, and that means that you're going to get a lot of rejection letters. Everybody does, but you just keep on sending your work out, and you don't take no for an answer. When I was learning how to write and I was sending stories out, I got a lot of rejection letters. Do you know how many I got? 470. Yeah. And
Listen to
I
that.
always
Hear
I
that?
have
She
a
can hear
PowerPoint
that.
when I
Sings
go
J.K.
and talk to
Rowling.
a group of kids, and I show them that number, and the whole room just goes nuts. They're like, "What is wrong with this person?" But I say to them every time, "It's like, what if I'd given up?"
It's
At
their law.
472. 400. I mean, it's just like so. You keep on writing, and you send your writing out, and you don't give up, and then you become a writer who is published, or an author, if you want to say that. But I like writer. Okay. Yes.
That's kind of what I was going to ask too.
How did I establish my first writing community? When I moved to the Twin Cities, I found my way to a writing workshop that was really helpful, which was just a group of people that wanted to write. And then what I have found is, as I write, I always have a group of readers. Some of them are standing right over there, who will read and tell me whether or not something is working. I don't, I don't want to hear a lot of. It takes a while to figure out who you can trust to show your drafts to. So, are you a writer? And it's really a very delicate kind of thing, because people can stop you by saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. So you have to choose very carefully who you can trust with reading your stories or sharing your stories. But you do need feedback. So it's yes, right here.
What inspired you to write Because of Winn-Dixie?
What inspired me to write Because of Winn-Dixie? That cold Minnesota winter, and that wanting a dog and not being able to have a dog. And also I had read a book. I was working at a book warehouse, and I had read a book called The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. Raise your hand if you know that book. And it's fantastic.
I
It's so
heard that
good,
title
isn't it?
before.
And I thought, I want to try to write a book that is like this, that is so funny and warm and still talks about big, important things. And pretty soon after I read that book, I started writing Because of Winn-Dixie. So, yes. Gloria Duncan, Because of Winn-Dixie, is she based on somebody I knew, or did she just come out of my imagination? I have yet to really base a character on anybody I know, but when I think about how I grew up on a dead-end street in Florida, and one side was all young families, and the other side was three widow ladies with these gigantic, overgrown yards. And we were all welcome to come in onto their porch, into their backyards. They were interested in everything the kids were doing. And so I think that Gloria Duncan's a something to add to those ladies, Soren, are you going to ask another question? Say it again, Soren. Have I seen Winn-Dixie the movie? I have, and I got to go to the set. It happened to be the day that Dave Matthews.
It's Kate Dicamillo.
And it also happened to be, I arrived in the afternoon after they had spent all morning getting
Same to Kate Dicamillo in person.
land on the dog's head.